Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, America's music venues are at risk of closing for good. They were among the first businesses to close and will be among the last to reopen. With a complete loss of revenue, America's venues need financial help now more than ever before. The National Independent Venue Association, or NIVA, has launched a new campaign called #SaveOurStages, a grassroots lobbying effort to get desperately needed legislation passed in Washington to help these venues hit hard by the pandemic. Over 1,300 independently owned music venues have signed on to this campaign, including many here in Northeast Ohio. For more information and ways to help, visit www.saveourstages.org. That's www.saveourstages.org.
You just heard there a live recording of Goldmines' song Dull Brain from their final show, December 21st of 2018, at the Happy Dog, located at Detroit Avenue and West 58th Street in Cleveland, Ohio. It was captured by Wesley Holbrook, who also goes by Wesley Who. This was at the tail end of a year he spent documenting live music around the Cleveland and Akron region, as well as beyond. As this summer swings into full effect, it's weird to think that as a society we've collectively not been able to congregate to listen to live music since mid-March. A few weeks back, my friends were posting into Instagram using the hashtag #RememberShows and sharing the last pieces of camera phone footage they'd snapped before coronavirus shut down our venues. And I was mad at myself. I wanted to join in, but the last concert footage I'd shot was of Jenny Lewis from September of 2019. She performed at the Agora. What happened to the dozens of shows I'd been to since then? And then I remembered, oh yeah, I told myself I wanted to live in the moment. And honestly, I kind of took it for granted that this would be something of an unending supply of entertainment that I'd always have. Flash forward 3 months, and that is not the case. Wesley Who was also feeling a similar type of way, and he decided to pick up where he'd left off with his live recorded album, Wesley Who's Year in Review 2018, which was marketing something that seemed even more relevant right now than a year ago when he first put it out.
Well, my name is Wesley Holbrook. I usually go by Wesley Who. It's kind of been my stage name for several years now. I moved up to Cleveland, I think, in 2016. I had lived in Kent. I went to school at Kent. Then I moved up here. I joined a band with Ricky Hamilton at the time, was the big perpetrator of making me move up here, the Nico Missile. It was a great way to introduce me to the scene. I met a lot of people. I played a lot of places because of that. And then I basically stayed in the music scene since then. I've played in the Punch Drunk Tagalongs, was a band I was in. I'm currently in King Boo. I've done a lot of solo stuff as Wesley Who. Pretty much anyone that asks, I'll play with you. You know, I usually play drums, but I played bass in the Nico Missile. I play guitar in my thing. So I just try to be around.
Wesley, what initially inspired you to take on this project?
It's really twofold. It's two parts that really drove me to do this. One, in 2018, I was in grad school at the time, and my final project that I was working on revolved around recording music history. It was more or less developing a Wikipedia structure for the purpose of, recording musical history, regional history. So I was interested in just documenting, the music around me at the time. And then the second part of that is also in 2018, I was touring around a bit with the Punch Drunk Tagalongs. I was playing a lot of shows. I was in King Boo doing my own thing. So I was playing a lot of shows. And at those shows, it happens to every band. It's a pretty normal thing. You play some shows to nobody. Tuesday evening, somewhere. And a lot of those shows were great. And I got really sad about that, I guess, in some way. I'm like, well, I want to document this. And I want to document the shows that no one goes to, the Wednesday nights that no one's there. So it's kind of twofold in the fact that I just wanted to document in general. And then I wanted people to have some way to experience, those good shows that they were missing. And a special note on that Goldmines show, it was specifically their last show. I have the whole thing recorded secretly. But when I moved up to Cleveland, Goldmines was kind of like one of the benchmark bands that you look up to, So it was a big deal for me to be there and record that and have it on there. It's the first track as well. It's a big one.
So you're at these shows, you're recording not only the bands, but really the entire atmosphere of the crowd. What are you using to capture these recordings with?
Oh, and this was just my phone. That's kind of the beauty of it.
That's wild.
Quick shout out to Mr. Teddy Eisenberg, who interviewed me about this, when I first was working on the project or released it. The beauty of it is that anyone can do this. And again, with developing a wiki structure, sort of what the impetus for this, to use your word, it's the idea of everyone as a community can document the history around them. So the point is, I just did this with my phone, and everyone can just do this with their phone. The same way a lot of people take pictures at shows. It's kind of the same idea, but you don't have that barrier. I mean, you can just record the show, put it in your pocket, and document it. And the more people that do it, the more angles you have, like a picture, or just the more potential there is for things to be documented.
Wow. And I guess so even more than I had initially thought, this really does make the importance of this project right now twofold, because not only are you providing people with kind of a live music experience that we've all been missing out on right now, but it really also reminds us again how important it is as observers to just go ahead and record for the sake of historical documentation and documentation of what has been happening. And we've been seeing a lot of that recently. While this is a little bit more of a fun kind of project, as you were saying with Goldmines, you are also able to capture some of the only live recordings from bands that are no longer active.
Yeah, especially now. I mean, especially now. But I know that Soft Copy, I believe, broke up like a couple weeks ago. I think I might have sent you them as well, and they're great. I mean, it's hard to keep track of who's together and who's not at this point.
Well, we're going to take a moment to listen to that live recorded track by Soft Copy. Next, you are going to hear Soft Copy perform their song, The Canyon. And this was recorded live by Wesley Who at Now That's Class on September 26th, 2018. You can get more information about them on their Bandcamp page. That's soft-copy.bandcamp.com.
Thanks.
We're here today talking to Wesley Who on Live from Cleveland. This is a pre-recorded show, but we are celebrating the 1-year anniversary of his live recorded album called Wesley Who's Year in Review 2018, a compilation of 17 songs that Wesley recorded live from his cell phone at various gigs that he either attended or played around Cleveland and Akron, Ohio. Wesley, I'm wondering what was the big infatuation kind of with recording these artists live for you?
I'll give you a nice pro and con for that. The benefit is, of course, it's more organic, and it was kind of my goal. This is what it sounds like. I think when in the description of the video or somewhere, I said, sometimes you can't hear the vocals, sometimes the guitar is too loud, sometimes the drums are too loud, but it is like that at a show, especially if you're not going to like a professional show like the Beachland Ballroom or something. Like if you're at just your local show, the sound's not always perfect, and that just is what it is. And again, for trying to make a historical record of this is what happened, that is what happened. So it's the exact sound you would have standing in the middle of the crowd, no soundboard going directly in. The major downside of that is in terms of, shows I couldn't put on the CD because the quality wasn't good enough. I have tons of house shows, and I think house shows are great and really important, especially, for the local music scene. But all of them have the worst sound possible because you're in a crowd, people are bumping up against you, the vocals are never loud enough, and it's way more about just feeling the music in those situations. But in terms of a field recording, it just doesn't come through. I think the oldest recording, the first one I think was in March, and the last one was in January of 2019. I kind of cheated and put one in the first week of 2019 because once I started, I was like, well, I want to make sure I get everybody. So at that point, I was just trying to make sure I got as many as I could. So if you look at the dates on everything, I think there's more towards the end of the year just because I was trying to make sure I got everybody in. I was trying to also incorporate, once I started working with the Akron Recording Company, I tried to incorporate more Akron shows, which was a bit of a drive for me, but totally worth it.
How did you decide which shows you wanted to record or include on the album?
Well, it started out, I was recording the shows I was playing because it was easy and obvious. But then, I wanted to expand that because I wasn't playing shows with, every band I knew. And I also kind of wanted it to be diverse in some way. I don't want it to just be a bunch of indie bands or whatever. So the only criteria was I had to be free. Some of the shows were shows I played, but probably at least half of them were shows I just went to just because I wanted to make sure that this band was documented, because I want to try to, I think the CD or album or YouTube video has like 18 songs, but I have more than that recorded. They couldn't all make it there. Some of them are just poor quality because that'll happen. But I just wanted to try to document as much as possible, get as many genres as possible. And, with the goal of being, some kind of historical record, I just wanted to get as many as I could.
Were there any bands that you were disappointed didn't make it onto the album?
There's actually two categories that I would say kind of fall into that. A couple bands that I know that I have that didn't get good recordings, again, because they were like house shows. Teamonade out of Toledo, I believe is where they're from. I like them, but the recording wasn't great. The Wastemen from Athens, again, another house show, and it's hard to translate those. But similar to both those bands, I have a lot of out-of-town recordings. So a lot of them, they didn't know me as well. And then especially when I started making it a little more regional, I felt I didn't want to add like a band from New York that I recorded or something like that. So I have like the category of like bands that couldn't make it on there because they were just kind of outside of the idea, outside of town. And then bands that couldn't make it on there just because the sound wasn't good enough. One thing that didn't make it on there that I really wish did, one rap song made it on there, one hip hop show. And there's a good scene in Elyria that's always been very kind to my band. Eli Orco, he's been really kind to us. He's great. It was his show that I went to. And then the song that made it on to the album is the Wrecking Crew Red Panda Bears. It's all from the same show. He played a lot of the house shows with us too. There's actually a fantastic cipher at that show. Unfortunately, it's one of the ones where I had a bit to drink, so I missed a lot of it. And again, it's something where I wish I had more ability to capture different things. It's something that's underrepresented. The one thing I'm missing completely, like I have zero metal music, and I know there's metal bands. There totally are. I know the bar where they play is really close to where I live, but I don't go there, and it was just kind of a sign of my times that I didn't make it there. So I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get any metal on there, because I know there's metal music. Mushroom Head's from Cleveland.
We're going to take a quick break from our interview and listen to a song by Archie and The Bunkers. Wesley, can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be hearing?
The Archie and The Bunkers show was a release show. And a lot of this, I always try to go to release shows, and the Archie and The Bunkers one was a special one. They had just gotten back from the European tour. So it was a really big show in terms of just energy and everyone being hyped for it. It's actually a video that I transcoded to audio, and I hope it comes through with the energy there. But they were like crowd surfing and stuff. It was fantastic.
This is Archie and the Bunkers performing their song Austria at May Halls on September 22nd, 2018. For more information, you can go to their Bandcamp, which is archieandthebunkers.bandcamp.com. here on Live from Cleveland on WRUW-FM 91.1. I'm Rachel H., and we're talking with Wesley Holbrook, who recorded 17 bands live and put them all on an album released on YouTube and via CD with the help of Akron Recording Company. We're going to talk a little bit more about that relationship with Akron Recording Company in just a moment. But Wesley, I wanted to ask you, did people know that you were kind of recording these shows in your pocket? I feel like if I had seen you out and about at Happy Dog, I would have just walked right up to you and started talking and perhaps ruined the whole thing.
No, I really like the idea of the gonzo element of no one knowing that I'm doing it. And if you've ever seen the technique of putting a sock on a microphone to kind of break the wind sound, just put your phone in your pocket when you record. It does a very similar thing. So the only thing I really had, so I just couldn't move, basically, because the sound of me rustling would kind of ruin it. But I'm not much of a dancer anyway, so I could usually stand pretty still and get a great recording as long as no one bumped into me. You know, we live in a time where everything can be documented all the time. And people do, to a certain extent. But you could easily do it more. Again, you can just put your phone in your pocket and record a show. And then, if I had infinite X amount of time, I could make a site where you could just upload the live thing, make a Wikipedia. I mean, Wikipedia is made because people with a bunch of information all come together and put it there. And there's moderators involved. But for the most part, it's just collective knowledge is more powerful than individual knowledge. And if we can document everything, throw it up on a platform. You just need the platform for it, but you kind of need them both in conjunction, the platform and the items.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about was Akron Recording Company's role in helping you put out this album of recorded material. What were they able to lend to this project? And how did you originally decide to start working with them?
I want to make sure I'm very accurate because I say that I worked with them, but I don't want to make it sound like I worked for them or with it. It was I couldn't have done it without them. That is 100% true. And by them, I mean Ben, Patrick. He was great. Nate, also great. He mixed it. So the reason I reached out to them in the first place was, I have all these songs and they don't sound great because they're, field recordings from a phone in my pocket. So I'd like them to be cleaned up, mixed, mastered a little bit, especially if I'm going to release it. I want to put some love into it and make it sound as good as I can, I guess. So I reached out to them with that. Then I kind of explained, the whole idea behind it, documenting and all that. And Ben was really supportive, incredibly supportive. Again, because I got frustrated a lot of times with it. It was a surprising amount of work just to organize all this and deal with all the tracks and all this. I reached out to all the bands, made sure I had the permission originally before I released anything. A couple bands said no, but it was a big process to do that. And I really needed his help. He helped reach out to some of the bands. I think we split the list in half, and just having the Akron Recording Company name on it, I think gave it some credibility because, who am I? Literally, Wesley, who am I? But it gave it some credibility, and that might have helped get some bands on there. I also hired Billy Buell to do artwork for it because I just wanted to involve as many people as possible. Because the music scene is more than just the bands. Obviously, it's also your recording studios, your album artists. It's a lot of people. So it was just great to not work by myself and have his help.
We're going to listen to another live track, this time The Dreamers, which Ben Patrick is a member of. And Wes, can you tell me a little bit about choosing to include them on this recording?
Yeah, like I said, I'm from the Kent area, and Akron is very close to Kent. So Ben Patrick of the Akron Recording Company, before he was in the Dreamers, he was in a great band called Taxidermy Special that I loved seeing play live at the time. So that's going back to 2009, 2010, a while ago. So I've known him since then, but we weren't really close then, but we had that connection of, being in the scene down there a little bit at that time. And we both continue to do things in the music scene.
But little old me, I can't see through your lens. I can't I'm not high. I'm not out of mind. Well, don't keep me in your dirty, filthy eye. You run and hide. I'll wait outside. I don't need anybody. It's just a little I. Oh, why? I don't need no friends. Oh, I don't need no friends. I'm all alone. No, I don't need no friends. I walk alone. No, I don't need no friends. 'Cause I've got all I need.
Right here. Right here in front of me. That was WRUW-FM's very good friends, the Dreamers. They've played at our Studio A Rama in the past. We heard the song No Friends. And then that was recorded at the Happy Dog on July 13th of 2018. You can learn more information about that band on their Bandcamp, thedreamers.bandcamp.com. And just a special reminder, tomorrow on the 5th, so that is Friday the 5th, Bandcamp will be waiving all of their fees and sending all of the proceeds and donations directly to the musicians and artists. So I've been trying to give away the Bandcamp links all night to these bands. You can also find the Bandcamp links to all of the bands on the compilation album that Wesley Who put out. All you have to do is go to his YouTube, Wesley Who. He has his own channel. You can subscribe. And the video, as well as all of those links, are there. So Wesley, you're celebrating the 1-year anniversary of this thing, Wesley Who's Year in Review of 2018. You spent an entire year recording all of this live material. You've worked now with Akron Recording Company to get it all mixed and mastered to where you kind of want it to be. What else was this process like for you putting the album out? And why did you decide to unearth this again in 2020?
Yeah, it technically so it first came out, I think I announced it came out, whatever, like March of 2019, because it was kind of, I mean, my original goal was, January 1st, but it became, as things do, it gets harder the closer you get to a deadline. But yeah, so it originally came out in March 2019. When I originally did it, I had these delusions of grandeur. I had this great idea. I made a website. I was like, you can pre-order it. Everyone that pre-orders it, the money gets divided between all the bands that are on it. Similar, because again, some of the idea behind it is a lot of these shows no one was at, so the bands didn't make as much. So the idea was, you buy the CD, you pretend you were there, you support the bands. It gets divided amongst all the bands at the end, and I just cover the cost. I think it was like $10. You get a CD. $5 goes to cover the cost. $5 goes into the pot, which is divided amongst all the bands at the end. Unfortunately, I put a lot of time and work into all this, but then I lost the energy on the marketing half of it, or I just wasn't very good at it. So it didn't sell many, but there are physical copies out there. Some people did, but yeah, there are some physical copies. I think Akron Recording Company, if you go there, has a couple for sale, but they're very rare. So it mostly just exists as the YouTube video. Honestly, I hadn't put any thought to it at all. Hadn't thought about it for quite a long time. But then, with the quarantine and all that, I guess I was thinking about live shows more. I mean, I'm still in my band King Boo, and we're all bummed we can't play shows, and it's a whole thing. So I think I just randomly one day, I don't remember why I actually did it, but I decided to listen to this album again. I couldn't even remember what it sounded like, and I went back and I got really sad actually. Because it's a time capsule in some ways. I mean, it's partially, where I was at in 2018, as a person and all that, just remembering being at those shows. And then the second layer of that, of, the concept of shows being a thing, and just how sad it is that they don't exist now, at least how they did. So I guess what I really learned is I'm really glad I did this. Just for my own sake, just so I can remember, as sort of a nostalgia bomb for myself. But I don't know. I think it just really shows the importance of remembering. And, you can't remember everything. Like, you just can't. Your brain's not good enough to do that. So it really highlights the importance of documenting so that you can remember everything.
I'm going to make sure that we have time for one more song, as well as some closing remarks from Wesley Who. We're going to hear Oregon Space Trail of Doom. I believe this is from a record release show. We're going to hear the song Do You See, recorded live at the Happy Dog on November 23rd, 2018. Again, you can find more information about this group on Bandcamp. You can go to their Bandcamp, Oregon Space Trail of Doom. .bandcamp.com.
See
lot of these recordings really do give you the energy of the crowd and of the show, and also probably bring back a lot of memories from the types of shows that you went to. Were there any memories that stand out that are really kind of set in stone for you because you have this document of memory, kind of how you were talking about earlier in our interview?
Okay. I'm looking at my sheet here. I see a couple. I just want to give. It's kind of like me just giving shout outs to bands at this point, I guess. So some amazing show that couldn't get on there that I have basically the entire thing recorded, but the sound wasn't good enough. There's a band called Belushi Speedball from Louisville, Kentucky. I got one song from this show on there, but they were a life-changing experience of a band. They did things like throw Magic the Gathering cards into the crowd. They got one of those parachutes from kindergarten, if you remember that, where everyone goes under, and just did that, like instead of a mosh pit. It's the kind of thing where you can't record it because it's a lot of visual stuff, but it was amazing, and I'm very sad they couldn't make it on there. In the opposite way of that, I think I mentioned Soft Copy. It's one of my favorite recordings, and that band, they broke up, unfortunately, recently. And it was one of those shows. It's the only Now That's Class show I have on there. And, I love Now That's Class. I've been going there since I was in high school. But it's one of those Tuesday night shows where no one was there. My band played it too. So it's my fault as well that no one was there. But it was a great show, and it's one of my favorite recordings. I have a couple songs from it. So it's there's a nice diversity there, the great show that I couldn't get on there, and then the empty show that I could. And it's just, they're all good. They're all good in their own special ways. Similar to the bands, I wanted to make sure I had a diverse list of venues because, I try to list the time and place of everything because I like, the documentation of everything. So I tried to get as many venues as I could. So May Halls, they're reoccurring. Plymouth House is the house show. Happy Dog, Now That's Class. There's a couple out of town places. The Union, I have a recording that didn't make it on there, but they're great in Athens. Maple Lanes, I have a Mahalo show that didn't make it on there, but Maple Lanes is great. I tried to stick to the smaller venues, I guess.
I suppose my last question, obviously you've taken 2019 off, and so far 2020 doesn't really look very promising, but if you can do this again in the future, do you think that this project will ever make a comeback, and can you see yourself recording more bands for possibly another year in review?
I was hoping for that question. So I mentioned that when this first happened like a year ago, Teddy talked to me about it, interviewed me about it. And at that time I said, there's no way I'm going to do this again. It was an incredible amount. I was pretty burnt out from it at that point. I was like it was like right when it was coming out, and I was super, super tired and burnt out. I was like, no way, this was a lot of work. It was just a lot of time, going to shows and doing all this. But now, as you said, with the quarantine and all this, it's showing the importance of music. And again, I went back and listened to it, and I'm really glad I did. So it's definitely pushed me to do it again. And I want to do it better next time, mix sound and live recording, get a better microphone for it, make it, in a perfect world, I'd make it an annual thing. I have some vinyls that are kind of like that, just documentations. This is what it sounded like in 1969 in San Francisco, kind of things, and just kind of keep it going as much as I can.
I want to thank Wesley Holbrook so much for being on Live from Cleveland today and talking to us not only about a period of time here in Cleveland, Ohio, and Akron, where he was going out to shows every night recording live music, which is very much what Live from Cleveland is about, is documenting what's going on in this area as well as regionally, but also kind of talking to us about the importance of documenting, recording audio and video of what you are seeing and staying engaged with what is going on in our area. So please remember that and keep that in mind as you're going out and perhaps participating in protests throughout Cleveland, as well as wherever you may be listening to WRUW-FM from. It's very vital that we're all participating as observers as well as active participants and taking this kind of documentation. So once again, Wes, thank you so much for being on Live from Cleveland this evening.
It's really down to, thanks to the bands for playing. Thanks for having a diverse selection of things to do and things are available to do. Again, I just want to be a humble documenter at the end of the day. So I'll document what's around.
All right, on that note, we are going to wrap things up tonight with a song from Wesley Who's Year in Review 2018. And remember, you can follow Wesley Who, that's WESLEY, Who, WHO, on YouTube. And that way you can look at this album, hear the album, and see the artwork. We're going to wrap it up with Actual Form, a Akron prog group. This is the song In the Food Court of the Crimson King, which was recorded at Hive Mind, a venue that actually recently closed down in Akron. It was a DIY venue. This was recorded on December 28th of 2018. For more information about Actual Form, you can go to their Bandcamp, actualform.bandcamp.com. You can see all their releases there, and if you so choose, you can donate for some of their digital releases. Bandcamp will be waiving all fees tomorrow, Friday, June 5th, in lieu of giving the money to the artists during the COVID-19 pandemic. Also a reminder for tomorrow that Virtual Shows CLE is hosting a special edition of their live concert. It's featuring Corey Michaels, who is a queer Black performer from Cleveland, Ohio, who unfortunately got some of his equipment as well as computer stolen during the rioting in downtown Cleveland this past week. So all of the proceeds from that Virtual Shows CLE program will be going to Corey to purchase new equipment, as well as just support him during this time. You can find out more information about Virtual Shows CLE on their Facebook page, which is facebook.com/virtualshowscle. We're going to be talking to members of Cleveland Versus next week, a new nonprofit started by members of the Modern Electric, Garrett Comyatti, as well as Matthew Childers. That will be next week, Thursday, June 11th, here on Live from Cleveland. I'm Rachel H. Thanks for tuning in this evening to WRUW-FM 91.1 Cleveland. As a reminder, we will have the MP3 audio of this program up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/livefromclevelandradio. Please share it with a family member or friend that you think might find it interesting. And you can also get in touch with us there. We're always looking for more content as well as news stories. Message us on Facebook or also send an email to fortheloveofbooking@yahoo.com. Have a wonderful Thursday night, and you'll hear from us next week on Live from Cleveland.